This week on ANN, leaders in the Adventist Church respond to devastating attacks in Sri Lanka.
The president of the Adventist Development and Relief Agency appeals to members after record-breaking storms cause catastrophic damage in Africa and Asia.
And hundreds of women march in Tonga to support End It Now.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, the death toll in Sri Lanka has risen to more than 320, with hundreds more injured after deadly attacks by religious extremists in Colombo, Sri Lanka on April 21.
The attacks were focused on hotels and churches who were holding worship services in observance of the Easter holiday.
On Monday, the Sri Lankan president declared a conditional state of emergency and a dusk-to-dawn curfew was in effect on Monday night in Colombo. Major social media and messaging services remain blocked by the government.
After the attacks, President of the Adventist Church, Ted N.C. Wilson, offered prayer and words of comfort to those impacted.
In a statement, Wilson said, "Our hearts go out to the grieving families of those killed in Colombo, Sri Lanka, in a terrible, senseless tragedy this morning. Churches and other areas were targeted. Let us pray for the families and for the Prince of Peace to reign in all the hearts of all, including those who perpetrated such horrific acts. They need the grace and love of God in their hearts to bring them to Christ and His forgiveness. Soon Jesus will come to take us to heaven, where there will be no more pain, suffering, or death."
The Adventist Church in the Southern Asia-Pacific region, where Sri Lanka is located, also made a statement of support after the attacks.
Their statement in part says, "The Seventh-day Adventist Church in the Southern Asia-Pacific expresses its deepest sympathies to the families and friends troubled by the horrifying incident in Colombo, Sri Lanka, on Easter Sunday, April 21, 2019. We are one with those who grieve. As a church, we reject any form of ferocity. Our thoughts and prayers are with Sri Lanka as we invite everyone around the world to continue praying for the families whose hearts are broken. As they continue to mourn for their loss, let's pray for healing and recovery."
And to read both statements in their entirety, visit news.adventist.org.
In the month of March, the southern African regions of Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe were affected by catastrophic storms, including the worst tropical storm on record in that region. In the same month, Nepal and Indonesia were also hit by heavy rain and floods. With those disasters combined, thousands of lives were lost and hundreds of thousands were displaced and forced to seek refuge in shelters. Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, is putting ongoing need assessments in place to help all affected, including long-term recovery efforts. Jonathan Duffy, president of ADRA International, shared his thoughts about the recent disasters and appealed for continued aid for countries dealing with disaster aftermaths.
On March 15, the southern African nations of Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe were heavily impacted by Cyclone Eli, a storm so powerful it's been coined the worst tropical cyclone on record to affect the southern hemisphere. Across the three countries, damage assessments indicate that more than 1,000 lives were lost and more than 161,000 people sought refuge in shelters. Over 239,000 houses were destroyed. Countless crops and livestock were left underwater. Over 3,500 schools were damaged. There have been over 4,000 cases reported of people who contracted cholera. And in Mozambique alone, nearly 1.5 million people now struggle to survive the cyclone's aftermath. Unknown to many, but heavy rains, which turned the floods, also struck the multi-island country of Indonesia in March 18, leaving 159 dead and more than 11,000 people displaced. Additionally, in Nepal, the country was hard hit by massive winds, accompanied by hailstorms and heavy rain striking the Bara and Pasa districts on March 31. Though the storm lasted about 30 minutes, at least 30 people lost their lives, over 1,000 homes were damaged, and more than 1,200 people were displaced. The storm led to power outages, uprooted trees, blocked roads, and contaminated water wells. Yes, these numbers are dismal and alarming and even discouraging, but I want to assure you there is hope on the horizon for the people of these countries and others facing dire constraints by recent natural disaster crises. Through supporters like you, ADRA has been working closely with local and international authorities to assess the needs of the hardest hit communities, and is doing so working closely with local Adventist churches to provide aid. In response to Cyclone Eli, ADRA has been able to provide immediate food and shelter, help heighten awareness of hygiene practices, and offer counselling services for those in mourning. Though Eli has passed and the floods have receded, there are still unmet needs that linger for many people facing the aftermath of natural disasters around the world. Visit adra.org/disaster.
Traffic in the main street of Nuku'alofa, Tonga's capital, came as a halt as a parade involving 600 Seventh-day Adventist women from around the Pacific made its way to the Royal Palace. Led by the Tonga Police Band, the parade was the focal point of activists for the 2019 Trans-Pacific Union Mission Women's Congress. Wearing colorful traditional dress and waving their flags on their nations, the women carried banners and posters promoting End It Now. End It Now is a global Seventh-day Adventist campaign aimed at stopping violence against women. In a special honor, Queen Nanasi-Pau permitted the parade to enter the palace grounds through the front gate, an entry point that is normally reserved for royalty. Queen Nanasi-Pau was also a special guest at the opening ceremony, where she gave an inspiring speech based around the Congress theme, Women Transformed in Jesus. President of the Adventist Church in the Trans-Pacific region, Maveni Kaupunonga, said the parade and the Congress are providing amazing opportunities to raise awareness about the Seventh-day Adventist Church, with local media providing coverage of the activities. The Congress is the official launch of the region's Year of the Woman, which is all about empowering women to be leaders and evangelists.
For thousands of young Seventh-day Adventists across the Inter-American Division territory, spring break week in April is Pathfinder Camporee time. A Pathfinder Camporee is an event that gathers dozens of regional or in some cases international Pathfinder clubs every year to reaffirm their place in the world as Christ-loving young people ready to serve wherever they are. Church leaders estimate that close to 80,000 Pathfinders and Master Guides, youth in training to lead Pathfinders, participated in Camporees throughout the territory last week. Director of Youth Ministries for the Adventist Church in Inter-America, Al Powell, spent last weekend with some 10,600 campers in Chiapas, Mexico. Powell said that seeing the young people's excitement and commitment for the Lord confirms again and again why the church finances such youth-empowering events. Chiapas held the largest union-wide camping event this year. During a camporee, Pathfinders engage in a wide range of activities such as worship, learning survival skills, physical activities, skill competitions, exchanging pins, networking, honors classes, and more. Camporees are also an opportunity to reach out to teenagers who have not given their lives to Jesus, helping them grow spiritually and learn about the Bible and Jesus' love. Throughout the 8 union camporees held last week, 930 young people were baptized at different campsites. For more information about the Inter-American Camporee, visit interamerica.org.
The Stewardship Department of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church is launching a video series targeting millennials.
The series is part of a broader initiative titled God First, which aims to help members understand the principles of tithe and offering.
A desire to reach out to members has led the Stewardship Department to create videos on tithing that bring members back to Christ.
The department plans to release a new video at the end of each month until the end of the year.
Stewardship leaders hope these videos will generate thought about tithing and offering and decisions about what it means to do God's will.
Stewardship Department Director Marcos Bonfim explained that these videos were created to raise the discussion at youth meetings, camp meetings, and on social media through friends. The department is hoping viewers will share the videos and inform others about coming to Christ.
The God First videos are available on the Stewardship Department website at stewardship.adventist.org and will be available in 4 languages: English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese.
They can also be viewed on their Facebook page, facebook.com/GC Stewardship Ministries.
Embedded in the videos are resources to help you understand tithe and offerings through open discussions and questions, and you may find them here.
At least once in life, many of us have already wondered about questions regarding tithes and offerings.
I have a very needy neighbor. Can I sporadically give my tithe to her? Would it not be doing good, like Jesus did?
Can I give the tithe to my preferred pastor?
I am considering giving my tithe to support the Christian school in my neighborhood.
Can I help the church renovation with my tithe? I am supporting a very reliable ministry with my tithe.
In the Old Testament times, the biblical tithing system of worship requires at least three main components: a specific percentage, a specific system of delivering it, and an exclusive use for it. So, if worshipers would assign any portion of their income, or even the right portion, to any other purpose, or if they would deliver it in any other way rather than what was established by God, it would not configure an act of tithing. It was God, and not the worshiper, who decided not only the tithe percentage, but also where the tithe should be delivered and how it was to be used. Remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth.
Coming up, we hear from the Adventist Church in Mozambique about how they're recovering from tropical Cyclone Eli.
We may look, pray, read, think, worship, sing, and share differently, but we all look forward to the Sabbath. And we all look forward to the future when Jesus will come again. With this message in mind, we arrived at a core component for a new identity system: the creation grid. Regardless of what or where you are designing, you can always find information to help you communicate that we are all Seventh-day Adventists.
Welcome back.
The Southern Africa Indian Division suffered an intense blow when Cyclone Eli devastated Malawi, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, destroying almost everything in its path.
Adventist church members and properties were not spared either. Our SID Communication Director, Noel Sibanda, was in Beira, Mozambique, and filed this report.
Cyclone Eli might have come and gone, but the scars left behind are too numerous for the residents to forget, as most of them lost not only their property, but their loved ones as well. Hundreds of lives were lost in Malawi, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, and the church in Beira is no exception. The 14th of March 2019 is one date that many in Beira City in Mozambique would like to forget very quickly, as the majority of the people were left homeless without food, electricity, nor shelter, and the roof over their heads was ripped open, thereby exposing them to danger by Cyclone Eli. The conference president in Beira, Pastor Domingos, was equally affected with his family, and they lost almost everything and are now living in one room.
We lost almost everything. We lost the books. Because of the cyclone, we are now living in one room, the 6 members of the family.
The family lost all their electrical appliances, including the stove, and now the shepherdess is using coal to cook, a task that is not only taxing, but very unsafe for the family.
As a shepherdess, I have nowhere to start from. As you can see, I am using coal to cook, and this is not working for the family, but life must go on.
But despite losing almost all his possession, Pastor Domingos is not discouraged, as he believes that life alone is more precious than earthly things. Like a good shepherd, Pastor Domingo have mobilized a few resources to help the church workers and church members, the majority of whom lost everything.
We are trying to do our best visiting our church members to comfort them from what happened from the storm or cyclone and flood. But we cannot do much because we are lack of products or other issues. But we have another challenge of water. Just people are not having safe water, and we are requesting some assistance for some product to clean up the water.
The house was totally destroyed. It was on the 14th, very early in the morning, around 2 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, my children were inside this house. As you see, we are rebuilding right now. It all fell, and everything what was inside, it got destroyed.
We thank Pastor Domingo for dropping food for us. We had nothing to start from. Other churches are visiting and distributing food and tents to their church members, and I'm getting scared that my flock will cross lines to other denominations.
The sad news is that none of our church members have been assisted so far, and many are in need of tents, food, clothes, and water. Moving from community to community, searching for his flock, Pastor Domingos can only do so much as the need on the ground is greater than what he can afford. Looking at the fields that were destroyed by Cyclone Eli, it's clear that the harvest was truly great, but Cyclone Eli decided to destroy everything on its way. Some villagers are trying to replant again, but then the planting season is almost finished.
Food is our major challenge because all our harvest and our stock was taken away by the floods. We are really struggling to put food on the table for our children, and we need food assistance besides clothes.
As we drive around Beira, it was so disheartening to see that the majority of our church infrastructure were also affected. The damage done by Cyclone Eli is just unbelievable. Just in one Sabbath, we visited more than 13 churches, and all of them were in a sorry state, and the majority of them need demolition or repairs. However, the living miracle and only consolation is that all our structures constructed by Maranatha Volunteers International were not damaged or affected, save for the few where the trees fell on top of the roof. These became shelters as many people were housed in Maranatha schools and churches.
We thank the Maranatha volunteers because almost all the structures were not affected by the cyclone, and these became our hiding shelters during the cyclone floods.
I am so happy I attend Maranatha school because some of my friends who don't attend our school are not going to school anymore because their school was destroyed by the floods.
There is indeed a miracle because here at the school is the only building that Maranatha built that remained intact. All other buildings, they fell down or blown off.
Despite the destruction done by Cyclone Eli, God's people in Mozambique are still singing praises to the Lord as they believe these are the signs of His second coming. Having identified the damaged properties, the mammoth task now is to mobilize resources and to start repairing the church property, the majority of which need to be demolished and rebuilt from scratch.
The sooner we get help, the better for our congregation. We don't want to continue worshiping under this building because this would put our lives at risk.
As you can see, the water level was by the window here.
I am just asking for donations to replace my precious Bible. We lost everything, as you can see.
The major challenge as of now is clean drinking water for the community, water purifiers like chlorine, tents for our church members who are now homeless, and medicines as the cyclone victims are now faced with the diseases such as cholera. As the survivors continue to pick up the broken pieces and reconstruction of their properties, it's clear that they have all been physically and emotionally affected. They say time is the greatest healer, and the time needed by the Cyclone Eli victims to recover is likely to take longer than expected. For the Adventist News Network, I'm Noel Spanda reporting from Beira in Mozambique.
Coming up, Emilie Mustafa is here to tell us how our churches can recognize special needs at Sabbath.
But up next, Adventist Mission has a story of Adra's response to the Rohingya in Bangladesh.
I didn't appreciate God as the champion of freedom until I had the chance and opportunity myself to make decisions over someone else's life. On a daily basis, I decide what happens in someone's life, either in a criminal context, if someone is in front of me on a charged crime and I need to sentence them, or if someone is in front of me on a family matter and I need to decide how the family is going to be run, who will gain custody of the children. It is at that point that I realize that the true champion of freedom is God, Because when I make the decision every day, I'm telling somebody what's going to happen. I am impressing upon them my decision for their life. The ultimate champion of freedom is God. He's not imposing anything on us. All he is saying is, here is my love. Will you choose it?
Welcome back.
We'll follow a Rohingya refugee in Bangladesh to see how she escaped a difficult situation.
Her new home poses new challenges, but ADRA is there to help.
Adventist Mission has more.
Yasmin clutches her infant daughter, Hasina, to her chest as she makes her way home. She arrives at a makeshift shelter made of tarpaulin, where she and her family are staying as refugees. Yasmin belongs to a minority tribe in Myanmar called Rohingya, which has been targeted for their Islamic beliefs. Early one morning in September 2017, Yasmin woke to the loud whir of a helicopter circling her village in Myanmar. The next thing she heard was a machine gun strafing the buildings. Together with her husband, Yasmin grabbed her 4 children, all under the age of 5, and rushed toward the sea. The screams and gunfire faded behind them as they ran, and by the time they reached the coast, the only sound that remained was the lapping of the waves. Still, the family was afraid. Hasina, then just a newborn, survived those 8 days on breast milk with a piece of cloth for shade. Finally, Yasmin and her husband decided that capture was better than starvation. On the morning of the 9th day, the family fled toward Bangladesh. After an arduous journey, they ended up in a refugee camp called Camp Lida in southeast Bangladesh. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, is one of several humanitarian organizations providing basic necessities at the camp. Although life in the refugee camp is relatively safe, it's not always easy. Access to latrines is limited, private bathing is nearly impossible to find, and schools are non-existent. As a Rohingya refugee in Bangladesh, Yasmin's options for food are also limited. So twice a month, she gathers her youngest child and sets out for her allotted portion of rice, lentils, salt, sugar, and oil. Yasmin's husband was a successful shopkeeper and homeowner in Myanmar before the attack. With the income from his dry goods store and the shelter from his 2-story wood house, her husband provided for all his family's needs. But now they have no choice but to accept aid and wait. Yasmin and her family are part of the 800,000 Rohingya refugees living in Bangladesh, yearning to return home to Myanmar. Until then, ADRA and other humanitarian organizations are working to meet their needs. Your support of ADRA and the mission offerings makes a tangible difference for people like Yasmin and her family.
Watch this and other mission stories online by visiting AdventistMission.org. Then click on videos at the top.
This Sabbath, April 27th, the Adventist Church recognizes Special Needs Sabbath.
Emilie Mustafa is here to tell us how each church can participate in making sure our churches are more inclusive.
Over 1 billion people in the world live with some form of disability. More than 100 million disabled persons are children, and global estimates for disability are on the rise. This Sabbath, April 27, has been designated as Special Needs and Possibility Ministries Sabbath. Adventist Special Needs Ministries has made available a special needs sermon, children's story, and a Sabbath school program to be distributed to pastors. The sermon is titled, "Let's Be Inclusive, Not Exclusive Christians," and the children's story is titled, "Diversity of Any Kind is a Wealth." They even have posters and videos that you can use on your social media pages. You can find these resources at specialneeds.adventist.org/downloads. Adventist Special Needs Ministries exists to coordinate and promote acceptance, support, and inclusion of people who have special needs and to those who care for them. At the heart of this ministry is the conviction that all have something to contribute. You can learn more about them and follow along with events at their Facebook page at Adventist Special Needs Ministries. There is something powerful when churches around the world bring special attention not only to the needs, but also to the possibilities that those with special needs have. This movement sees each person as being created in the image of God, whether they can see, hear, or walk. Everyone should be included.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to Alejandra Castillo for a look at Adventist history.
This week, we hear about the beginning of what is now Montemorelos University.
Hello and welcome to This Week in Adventist History. 76 years ago, on April 24, the President of Mexico, Manuel Ávila Camacho, visited Mexican Agricultural and Industrial School in the small town of Montemorelos in the northeastern state of Nuevo León, Mexico. This was an important occasion for the young school, which had been founded the previous year, 1942, and would grow to become the Montemorelos Vocational and Professional College, offering post-secondary education in nursing and ministerial training by 1951. The school became Montemorelos University in 1973. Montemorelos University is situated on a 230-acre tract of land in a valley nested between lush mountains. 40 acres of the school's property are used for campus buildings, and most of the remaining acres are part of a prosperous orange farm. Students of Montemorelos University find many outdoor activities to engage in within a 25-mile radius of the school. The diverse student body can choose from 33 undergraduate programs, 25 graduate programs, and 11 online programs for their studies. On a local level, Montemorelos is best known for its hospital. In 1947, the college opened a sanatorium, and 34 years later, on April 25th, 1981, the facility was inaugurated as the Montemorelos University Hospital by another president of Mexico, José López Portillo. The facility was built with donations from many different sources, but it was merged with the university to provide core clinical facilities for the new and rapidly growing medical school. Today, the hospital is a very significant part of the local community, as it is one of the primary means by which students and faculty serve the people around them, providing the services and education for people to live happier and healthier lives. That was This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching in ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how you're making a difference in your community.
And be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos. Then write up a summary of the event's important details, and feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7.
The passage says, "But the Lord said to Samuel, 'Do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him.' The Lord does not look at the things human beings look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart."
That's our program for this week, and remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and more videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.